Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Zach Celadonia.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, and joining me here to play some Monday morning quarterback, my good, I'm going to say buddy, colleague, and pal. That's what I used to call Brian. He's out like climbing mountains or something, out on vacation. So Brian will be back, but that's not his spot here. We got the post game. We finally got some preseason football, and joining me, my co-host, co-pilot, A1 Zach Flash Celadonia. I saw you got the McDonald's for the game, man. How was it?
Had to. Yeah, we can't all have it as good as Brian. I wish I could be on vacation, living my retired life on the beach and doing whatever else he does.
He's not like retired, though. He's not retired. He's probably, I don't think he's old enough to be retired, as much as I
could have fooled me.
Yeah, as much as I joke about his age, so, but we had some football. And I had McDonald's last night myself. I have to let you know that. So I had to go with the chicken. We crossed the slate. There was a chicken nugget Happy Meal and a chicken McNugget meal. So just had to go full chicken McNuggets and fries. And the fries were banging, man. They were hot, like burn your mouth, crispy hot. And that's as good as it gets. And they salted it just enough. And it sounds like a big McDonald's promo, but I was thinking of you because I was laughing. I saw that tweet you sent out for the game, but I saw it like after. It may have even been like when I got after the game, walking back or whatever it was. And I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. How did I miss that? So it's funny. You were just saying that you were going back through all of your tweets and to have some notes and stuff for the program today. And I'm just like, I don't know how I could have done that. It was bad enough, like as many that I was sending out. And I know everybody's going to want to know. Typically, I would go through, like on a preseason game, regular season, I'd go blow by blow, play by play, drive by drive. I don't know. We may kind of still do that. I don't know if we're just going to go through positions. Let's see how this flows. Because everybody, I know everybody wants to hear us talk about the quarterbacks. So I'm going to.
Nothing new.
Yeah, I know. Nothing new. We made it 2 minutes without mentioning the word quarterback. So that's always good. I'm going to say something good and bad about all of them. I'm going to try and be succinct here. So let me see. I didn't quite put my thoughts together on all of this, but I don't want everyone to think, well, put it this way. I think they have a good quarterback problem at this point, and I think we've been on record long enough to say that we believe that any of the three guys could operate this offense, could operate this team, particularly with how good we believe the defense should be. Had some defensive starters sitting out, of course, which kind of muddied the waters on what that might look like in this game. But
the whole defense was out besides the linebackers and the corners.
Yeah, so, yeah, inside linebackers and the defensive backs. So yeah. and Minka.
Oh, he was out there. I didn't even notice.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't. No, he wasn't out there. No, KZ was out there. So TJ, might as well say it. TJ Watt was not playing. Alex Highsmith wasn't playing. Cam Hayward wasn't playing. Larry Ogunjobi wasn't playing. Tyson Alualu wasn't playing. So half your defense for the starters weren't out there. And the Seahawks, they had some injuries and stuff too. So some people are going to say, well, so-and-so did this against a first or second team. There were quite a bit of second teamers, or at least guys that are going to be backups or may make either this NFL roster with Seattle or another that were still in this game. So it's not fair to completely say, like somebody, I think on one of the post-game radio shows was like, well, Kenny Pickett was playing against Walmart greeters. And not necessarily true, so I'm going to pump the brakes on that. So anyways, Mitch Trubisky, let me see, good and bad. Good, looked poised, looked like a leader, didn't make like any mistakes. Bad, he still had that one instance where he was holding on to the ball a little bit, and the offensive line, I'm going to have some things to say about them. But on the contrary to what happened with Mason Rudolph after being, I'm going to mention it, of course, we were just talking about this off the air, people booing him, and I'm not sure, it kind of reminds me, Zach, I was at the Royal Rumble. WWE Royal Rumble was in Pittsburgh about 10 years ago now, right? And there was a very, very popular wrestler named Daniel Bryan. He goes by Bryan Danielson now in AEW. And shout out if you do listen to Britt Baker. We're paying attention. You see Pittsburgh follows SCU, which is very cool. So anyways, I remember being there. I'm in the building. and everyone's thinking that this wrestler is going to enter the Royal Rumble, and just real brief, it's like 30 guys enter, it's like over the top rope, everybody's in the ring at the same time, but one comes out like every other minute, right? And the winner gets a shot at the championship, blah, blah, blah. And everybody's wanting this very popular wrestler to enter, and that's all they're waiting for. And then one of the most popular guys that they have, Rey Mysterio, wears a mask, loved by kids, like
Even
pretty
I've
much.
heard of Mysterio.
Yeah, people know, like it's like a Hulk Hogan type name. People who aren't even that into wrestling know Rey Mysterio is. The Pittsburgh crowd booed Rey Mysterio as number 30 just because this other guy didn't enter and wasn't going to enter, and they booed. And they weren't necessarily booing Rey Mysterio, but they were booing the concept of that Daniel Bryan wasn't in this thing, and that means he wasn't going to win.
I'm following.
Yeah, so kind of the same thing here. I think a lot of the hometown crowd on Saturday night wasn't familiar with the depth chart kind of pecking order breakdown of Mason Rudolph coming in second, so they boo him, which was not classy at all. And there's some people are just going to boo him because they're going to boo him. I have a story about a guy at the end of the game. I was wearing my Mason Rudolph jersey as promised. This guy came down like across the aisle. I actually saw him on TV. He was just walking around wherever. He was drunk, and he got in my face. And he's yelling Kenny Pickett at me. Kenny Pickett. And I'm like, I don't know. You've never seen me at a game, but I listen to the radio too. I have like an earbud in. So I'm just like, because it's cool. You see the play and there's a little bit of a delay, and then you get, oh, so-and-so ran for so many yards. You may have missed something or somebody being hurt, and I'll turn it on and
You're
off.
working double time. You're
Yeah,
looking like
exactly.
MIB agent out there with your earpiece in, with the sunglasses on, speaking to yourself, into your character. 2014.
You know, I didn't have the sunglasses though. Didn't need them for a change. Now anybody's
Dude,
going on
crazy though, man. I mean, you
Got
said
my
he was
face.
drunk, but like that's a shame, man. I mean, it sounds funny now that you're telling the story behind it, but that's a shame, dude. They got in your face just for wearing your jersey, and like, I mean, I saw you wearing the jersey. I thought it was funny, and you spent good money on it. You're gonna wear it, and if there's ever a time to wear it when he's gonna get definite playing time.
Yeah, exactly. That was the whole point of it. I mean, my cousin was like, "Man, I didn't think you were gonna wear it because it's a away jersey. It's breaking my kind of feng shui, my superstition with that." But it was funny too because I bumped into Miles Jack's mom, and we were in the pro shop, and she was talking to somebody, and she was just trying to get through the line and go up and to her seat and everything like that. And she had actually been to Heinz Field before for the playoff game back in 2017, and that's
ironically, that he played really well in.
It's just crazy because we were kind of like, when we were talking to her, it was like, wow, really? But this other guy like didn't have a clue who Miles Jack was, which was kind of sad. And we were like, no, we know your son. He's going to be the real deal. So, and he had a good game too. I mean, for what short amount of time that he did play. So anyways, I'm conflating a couple of stories together, but the Mason Rudolph booing thing was kind of distasteful. In the very first play, again, offensive line doesn't bail him out either. The only difference is he gets the ball knocked away from him a little quicker than Mitch did. Mitch had it on his back hip, and Mason ends up recovering it. So in both cases, it's just like protect the ball, which will be a theme coming up later outside of the quarterbacks when we talk about running backs. Mike Tomlin's big bugaboo is protect the ball. But man, Dan Moore, I don't know if it's Dan Moore on both of them, but Dan Moore on the one with Mason was pretty bad. But Mason, I thought I was actually surprised at how much playing time Mason got in the game, as opposed to Mitch Trubisky, who started the game and kind of got like 2 series, but he got quality work. And we were talking about that initially. It's going to be like game script. And so Mason got to be in there a little bit longer. None of the quarterbacks had the full complement of guys because of Deontay Johnson being out, Chase Claypool being out, Najee Harris being out, Pat Freiermuth being out, Calvin Austin was out. So you're a little bit down the depth chart. So my good and bad obviously was with Mason I think he looked poised. Some people said he looked scared. I'm like, no, he just doesn't. His personality isn't the same as some of the other guys. You know what I mean? And then of course with Kenny, for being a mobile quarterback, I wish he didn't take the 2 sacks. I'm not gonna fault the one on 4th and 1 necessarily on him, and we'll get to that of course. But and this I'm gonna say a couple surprising things for you. This game, I was talking about this with some other folks versus how he practiced. Dude comes to play on game day. He looked like a completely different guy in that preseason environment. Now, mind you, Mike Tomlin's feeding into those vibes, lets him go for 2 and all these other things. It was like one of the most wild preseason games I was ever at in my life. And that's pretty much was what everyone else was saying. So let me kick it over to you. I've been talking too darn long here.
You're hogging all the good air, dude. That's what they said on TV was you've never seen a preseason experience like that. I wish I had gone. I usually make it a thing to try to go to at least one preseason game a year, and didn't make the move this year. And of all years to miss out, it seemed like it was halfway through the regular season, and you got Heinz Field popping off, moving an inch to the left over a second half of a preseason game. It was awesome to see on TV. You could like almost feel the vibes from the television alone. Pompiani on the call, whatever. But all three quarterbacks played well. I thought it was a very good performance from all three of them. You get into the thick of it and you get people angry and you get into arguments when you play devil's advocate and try to rank the three of them. That's when the arguments start. I just want to say all three look good. All three of them did things well that we had touched on the show that we expected them to do well with, i.e. Mitch using his legs, throwing on the run, looking poised, accurate, quick decisions. Mason, great deep ball, probably the best pass of the game, if not definitely. I would rank that probably the best pass, and then Kenny's touchdown after that, and then Mitch's touchdown after that. All three touchdown passes of the 4 touchdown passes were 3 of the best throws of the entire game, and that's what you love to see. I agree with you that the 2 sacks, you don't want to see that from Kenny on the 4th downs, but the one, you beat me to it. I'm glad you did. I'm not going to put that all on Kenny because didn't really have much time. It wasn't like he was holding on to the ball too long. He tried escaping immediately, and I think he did the stiff arm thing both times, putting his arm on the guy's chest, trying to get away. Both times got tossed down like a rag doll. So he'll get used to that playing in the NFL and playing against regular NFL bodies. I'm sure he'll look to add some weight himself.
But yeah, not quite Big Ben out there. Big Ben would have just thrown the guy, like done one of those judo throws over his shoulder.
Yeah, tossed the pad like at practice. And Mason did a good job or two throwing with the rush in his face. Mitch did a good job avoiding a sack the one time, as did Kenny on his game-winning drive. He escaped for a big run where got a nice block from free agent running back Kevin Durant. So really, I'm having fun on Twitter.
Mateo Durant.
Mateo
You're
Durant,
doing it like almost on purpose now. That's funny. We did that the 1 year.
I totally didn't catch that. No, I didn't. Whoops. You're Kevin now, Mateo. Sorry. Yeah. No. Mateo's a beautiful name. I'll try to get that right for as much longer as he's here. But if we're just talking quarterbacks for topic A here, I was satisfied. I don't really have much more to say on that other than I think my suspicions may come to fruition that they may let Kenny get work with the second unit or even the first before preseason is over because his debut went that well. You couldn't have asked for anything more. Yeah. Would you have liked for him to push the ball down the field a little bit more? Yes, but his checkdowns worked. That he did what he was supposed to do. Got the necessary yardage, got the first downs, got a touchdown that way. So I get it, check down Charlie, but his best throw of the game was the touchdown pass. That's not an easy throw into the opposite hash, outside of the numbers. Not an easy ball to throw. And he had another out throw to Cody White for about 12 or 13 yards, same side of the field, also an impressive throw. So he was checking it down kind of frequently, but it was to the betterment of the offense, and it seemed like it was always the right throw to make. So couldn't have gone better for Kenny Pickett. Mason had a good game. Mitch had a good game. I don't really have much to say negatively about any of the three of them, really. But happy with that. That is the result.
Yeah, I'm the same way. It's tough because I don't want to sound like the Debbie Downer. Did you tweet something like yesterday where you were saying, what was it? Pittsburgh media, or maybe you retweeted somebody more accurately. It was like Pittsburgh media sucking all the fun out of something. And
oh, they said the Pittsburgh media's favorite go-to move is like, stop enjoying that in all caps.
Yeah, that's pretty much, it's like Mike Tomlin. He's not sitting like on a victory Sunday or victory Monday or anything like that. They're back to business. They're practicing in Latrobe again this week. I have things to say, and I don't want to sound negative because
my thing is you can enjoy what you saw. You can enjoy the game. You can be happy. You can rave with your friends and family. I'm doing that right now with my friend and family right here, co-host Joe. But I don't have this like, okay, now Kenny is the starter. Like you can enjoy what you saw and take the highlights out of it and the positives without having to turn in a depth chart at the end of the day to the teacher. You don't have to do that. You can let the preseason continue to play out and find solace in the fact that the starting offense looked really freaking good from start to the end of the game from so many different points. We've only touched on the quarterback so far, but there's a lot more to cover here from the offense. And it doesn't mean that anybody's job is lost or anybody's off the team yet necessarily. And that's where I think people like, you don't have to be so hot or cold. You can be right in the middle, like I am, and I feel like you are too. And talk about these guys' performances and talk about what they did well without being like, well, that means this guy's off the team. That means he's a starter now. There's more that has to play out, but the game definitely matters. Tomlin himself said that the games matter more than the practices. So the game matters, but it's not the end of the world. There's 2 left.
No, I totally agree with you on that. And it's funny saying the depth chart thing because I'm going to get into that with a few of the other things I was going to say. I think the biggest thing is with Mason Rudolph and talking about the booing thing, you don't have to like or love the guy. Just support him because he's got the same uniform. You don't have to go for the name on the back. And I still, and I'm not sure if I've articulated it enough on here, but I think a lot of it comes from there's people who just don't want to be wrong. It's like the people who still stick, they stick to their, it's like the draft Twitter when they're like, see, should have never drafted Terrell Edmonds there. You could have got blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, wait, Steelers needed a safety and this is who was available. And he wasn't going to be there if they waited till the second round and da-da-da-da-da. And you get a lot of that, I think, with Mason Rudolph because of where he played in college, because he's drafted when Ben's still on the roster. Oh, are they trying to shove Ben off here? And Ben's reaction to it too. He was PO'd because that pretty much meant the end of Landry Jones, and they had just drafted Josh Dobbs, who he liked because Dobbs wasn't a threat. And let's just be real. Like Mason was looked at to be perhaps developed to be Ben's predecessor. And a lot of people say,
yes, he used to be.
Possibly could still be. You still don't know how this is going to play out. What happens if somebody gets hurt? But I just get I think some of it has to do with the college fan bases. You've got, Pitt, Penn State, WVU, Ohio State. So there's people who don't like certain people. There's people who don't like Kenny Pickett.
I'm with you on made up minds. Some people don't want to admit they're wrong. They don't want to admit fault. They don't want to come around on a take. I just said Mason's touchdown was the best throw of the game. I'm man enough. I'm a big enough person to say when Mason does well and makes good plays. That's what I said. I don't really have much. He almost threw a pick, but I have seen the play. I have seen that Connor Hayward is half to blame for that because he stopped running and the safety would have been there anyway. So it was either going to be a pick or a big hit on Connor Hayward. So it wasn't a good play from Mason or Little Hayward. But that was a drop pick. That was really the only negative play that I had to ding Mason with. I'm not going to just exonerate him of all flaws because I'm afraid of you yelling at me. But that was the one negative that I had watching the game was that he did well besides that. And I don't think he did bad enough to lose his number 2 spot yet. But I think Kenny did good enough to earn a look with the 2s, if not next game, then the last game.
Oh, man, you just gave me a lot. Like an awful lot
it's just
chew.
A quarterback show.
You're like, hey, I've got this expensive chicken wing. We're not just throwing these out anymore because they're like $13 a pound or whatever. Here, there's a little bit more meat on it. Would you like to finish this? And I say, yes, thank you, sir. I'm still hungry. Give me some more. This is where we're at right now. Can I? Yes, please give me some more. Which is kind of like where the kid's at. Like these 4 and 6 piece Happy Meals just aren't cutting it. You know what I mean? It's just, it's not enough for the growing child. Like, so it's like, I got the 20 piece. Daddy, can I have like 1, 2 extras? Absolutely. I don't need to be this hog and eat a 20 piece all to myself. So I've been there.
2 nights. If I get a 20 piece, I split it between 2 nights. That felt like a personal dig.
It's not a personal dig, but I think I'm going to surprise you. So
I have an air fryer. Okay.
Dude, like for real, like some stuff, like you couldn't heat up French fries in the past without an air fryer. Like,
oh, it's so great. It's changed my life.
It's amazing. Here's another hack for you. Look this one up on the internet. You can heat up pizza in a skillet.
I've never tried that. Pizza
It's
in the air
good.
fryer is not bad, but I've never
Yeah.
tried reheating on a skillet. I'll have to look into that
Yeah,
one.
yeah, a little, just a tad of water so it doesn't dry out completely, and like put the lid on it, and boom. Yeah, write that down.
I am. Can you see?
Write it down. Yeah, it's like I got a pen in my hand too. I was trying to note something, and then you kicked it over to me. But I'm gonna shock you. I'm gonna surprise you on a little bit. That's number one. The first one's gonna be that Connor Hayward play, and I wasn't going to say it, so I'm glad you did, because I don't want to seem like the guy that's making excuses for Mason Rudolph. At the same time, when I was at the game, I was like, what are people talking about nearly picked? That didn't look nearly picked to me. Like but when I saw it on replay, and then I'm like, oh geez. I'm like, guy like jumped the route right there. And it looked like that was a difference. I made this comment in game. I'm sitting there, of course, with the Cuzzo. If he's listening, thanks for listening for one of the few times that you do. I know you do. He's like into it now. Like, he can't handle a lot of the clickbait stuff that's out there, just like me and you. So I was like, hey, look, Mason's throwing guys open. You know what I mean? There's not this window where you're waiting in college. And Kenny did that. Kenny did that a lot in this game too. I felt a lot more. People are going to say a lot about checkdowns. Those plays were designed specifically. Let them settle in, get them comfortable. That also tested Jaylen Warren. They're testing things in these games, which is what really bugs me. I should go through some of the series, because I think Mason got done a little dirty too. What was that timeout? Tackle eligible Joe Haig comes out on the field. They were going to run something, and then they call a timeout, and they come back, and I believe that's the pass where they end up throwing to, was it the one that goes to Boykin? There was one that goes to Boykin where Boykin couldn't hold it, and he had a hand in on him, and I'm like, you're 6'4", 6'5", dude. Like, how do you let a DB, probably a backup DB,
for the touchdown,
sneak in there? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I saw that.
Or versus just stuffing it in there. They were 3 yards out. Can Warren get 3? I tend to think there's a higher percentage. I'm not the big analytics guy, but I would think off the top of my head.
That's what kept Boykin from being a winner on my list, honestly.
Absolutely.
I'll call that a drop, because he had a couple good plays, but that's the kind of play that'll help you stick on the roster if you catch that touchdown, and he didn't. So that's what separates again, I hate saying losers, but guys who did better than other guys.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head with that, because there was one where he had his hands like very outstretched. It almost looked like he was going to drop it, but he controls it. And like we're talking a guy at 6'4", 6'5". He's got to have pretty solid size hands too. I mean, yes. And he's wearing gloves. Like, I'm like, what's the deal here? It just it looks uncomfortable. And I think that's the eye test thing sometimes with Rudolph, where people aren't seeing, I don't know, his personality. He's just different. He's different. And I think I saw something else that may have been retweeted from you too, where somebody said, he's above average to a certain degree, or maybe they said he's about as average as a NFL quarterback can be, which would be great for a backup, maybe not a starter, which I can't disagree with that either.
I think that was Chris Dokish.
Maybe. There were still idiots out there who were looking for Chris Oladokin in the game. And it's like, dude has.
I feel kind of bad for Chris at this point.
I don't. I think somebody. Well, no. I mean it in this way. I think he'll be on the roster. I think he'll be on the practice squad. I think that was always kind of where we had him pegged. I heard Bob Labriola or Mike Pursuta or somebody else talk about that as well. Like, his audition's really for next year to see if he could be a QB3.
I just hope he stays mentally in it. I just feel bad for like, you see him on the sideline, like he's there, clipboard, hat on, jersey, like earpiece in, listening to the play. So I'm glad that he's staying. You just feel bad from like a competitor standpoint, and like knowing what it feels like growing up playing sports, like you want to get in there, and he's sitting pretty. If we can get him on the practice squad, he's going to make money. He's going to be on an NFL roster. So that's all. You take that into consideration when you say you feel bad for a pro athlete, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I actually conflated. The Boykin play was the first down. Jaylen Warren up the middle. So that was the first and goal from the 7 with Boykin. Then there was the timeout, and then it was Steve Sims with some traffic, but I don't know if Sims was the primary read on that. That ball didn't come out very quick. So something with the coverage just wasn't right. You're playing when you're like 3rd and goal from the 3. That's really tight quarters. That's like, we've seen it with Ben. We've seen it with other people. That's kind of like, you said it earlier too. Everyone was praising like the Pickens catch, but not necessarily the Rudolph throw. And it's like there's two
I did say
components
that,
to
yeah,
it.
on Twitter.
Yeah.
I said, we got to be real. Like, it's a beautiful catch,
Yeah.
but that ball was perfectly placed. I said
And
3 times now, best throw of the game. So,
and Jaylen Warren,
you got to give what you get, you know?
yeah, Jaylen Warren, and he's the one that we're going to bring up a lot as far as if he could be backup running back. And I'm like, where was the confidence at there? I think they wanted to see more from Rudolph in that situation. I don't know that they're necessarily seeing much from Steve Sims, but that could have been a play that might have been for Boykin. I was looking for back corner. That's what I was looking for. They've been doing a lot of that, as they always do. You know what I mean? You got to work the whole field. And I got to see some more. I got to see coach's film or something else like that. Of course, a lot of it's from my observations being live, different angle, this and that. It was down in the corner of the end zone where I'm closer to it to observe. There's so much going on with that. It's just, okay, let's see. And I was disappointed that they only got the field goal out of it. But, hey, there was a lot of points scored between the first two. Now you're wondering what's going to happen when Kenny comes out there. And whether you want to say Kenny played against 2s or 3s, I'll put it this way. Drew Lock is competing with Geno Smith, and that was a really weird breakdown. They gave them each a half. And it wasn't against the same competition necessarily for the Seahawks to maybe judge, but Drew Lock in this case. And this kind of goes back to Mitch Trubisky found Gunnar Olszewski wide open. And I said it felt like an hour, but he was rolling to his left. We were talking about this in the back rooms.
Did you see the bird's eye view of that play?
I don't need to see the bird's eye view. I saw it from live. He was wide open a little bit. Yeah.
3 dudes followed Pickens inside.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but I know he was just by himself, and it was just like, oh my God, find him. And it's not necessarily an easy play for the quarterback. So again, you know, that's the kudos. I'm not trying to dig on Trubisky, but it felt like an hour, like where you're like, okay, find him, and it's like rolls left, and then he's right-handed, and it's like, okay, come on. Kitty up here.
They pointed that out on TV today, I think, or maybe it was Twitter. I can't. It's all blended together in my head since the game. But they pointed that out, that this was the first drive of the game, or the second. Either way, Mitch was in there, and Gunnar goes. You know, he does his little post corner or whatever. Pickens just does a little slant. His guy, the linebacker and the safety, all went, like, Mitch didn't pump fake or anything. They all just went right for Pickens. And so George Pickens is already drawing that kind of attention. This was after 1 catch in the game so far. And the whole defense was dialed in on number 14 and left Gunnar by himself in the end zone. It's pretty funny to see. It's almost like they're doing a little coordinated dance. The linebacker, the safety in the corner, they all come up at once, and then Gunnar goes right behind him.
And then they get beat later on when Mason throws the dime, whatever it was, 26 yards or whatever. But these plays, this was pretty crazy, though, because the first touchdown drive with Mitch was 7 plays, 75 yards, and the touchdown. Then it was 6 plays, 38 yards. Then you had 3 for 23 with the touchdown. Maybe it was a 23-yard. I said 26. And then the one that ended in the field goal that we were just talking about was 17 plays, 86 yards. Like, whew, that's a long one, man. So 3 for 9 with the punt, and then 1 for 7. It was just a handoff. I'm like, what are you going to do here? You got the ball with like 20 seconds in a preseason game before halftime. Kenny comes in, 7 plays, 75 yards, looking like a dog. A lot of different things, too. I don't know if you noticed or if it was apparent on TV, but a lot more motion than I thought with Mitch and Mason in there. And you had these wide receiver runs, and you had some folks that are now very gung-ho on Steve Sims. And I got to pull back the curtain on this one and pump the brakes. And this sounds mean, and I like Steve Sims, but he might not be on the roster in any way, shape, or form because he's like wide receiver 9 when you boil down to it. We're talking to ourselves as to whether or not the Steelers can keep 6. They just let Pickens start this game because no Johnson, no Claypool. Austin didn't get a chance out there. You got to showcase Boykin a little bit. Could have had a chance to pull away from Anthony Miller, who also didn't play.
All the bottom guys like had their time to shine, you know. And if that's the case, and everybody remained stagnant, and everybody like did some good and some bad, then Sims didn't do anything to like put himself higher on the wide receiver depth chart. And that might be the hottest take of the show, honestly, that get people the most angry in the comments, which is usually the quarterback talk. But dude, we've seen this so many times, and I love my receivers, best position in football, but we see it every year in the preseason, whether it's Damone Patterson, Shakir Phillips. Like, there's guys who put on a bit of a show in the preseason and do well. It doesn't necessarily mean there's room for them on the team because guess what? The first 4 spots are still guaranteed. Austin's foot injury isn't that bad. So you got 4 guys locked in. Gunnar had a good game. He had the first touchdown. He had a big catch before that too. So Gunnar is looking pretty safe at this point. That's 5. That's 1 spot between Cody White, who had a good game, Vaughn, who had the touchdown, Boykin, who had a decent game, and then Sims and Anthony Miller. So like, there's this hodgepodge at the bottom, and like you said, we're going to come off as dicks saying this, but Sims, he had a good game, and it's going to benefit him because maybe another team will pick him up, but there just isn't room here, my guy.
There isn't. They had him doing some special teams work too, returning kicks or punts. Also, I know McFarland returned some kicks. Oh, we got to get to him too, but let me finish. Kenny Pickett.
Do not forget McFarland.
Well, I don't want to forget Kenny either.
No.
Seven plays, 75 yards. I had said at one point everyone had made Heinz Field, Acrisure Stadium. Hold on a second. You know what?
You got it right the first time.
No, it's this lifeless. Like, just look at that. There's just there's nothing like
industrialization of America. That's like the McDonald's is how they're all gray and brown now. There's no color.
Center it out a little bit more. McDonald's is kind of cool in the middle. Like, they were all cookie cutter in the past, man. I mean, it was like the Pizza Huts, and you could identify any old Pizza Hut building that isn't a Pizza Hut right now. It's like mostly like around, at least where I'm at, Chinese. Yeah, it's mostly Chinese takeout or those cash advance pay loan things. Like, that happens with some of the Long Johns that are around too. But Kenny, Acrisure Stadium, first drive, I had said it made it sound like the Ben Farewell game. Like, it was absolutely bonkers, man. I can't describe it in any other different way. But let's see, 7 plays, 75 yards with the touchdown. There was the 3-play drive where they lost like 5 yards. They were like backed into their corner, and at least Kenny doesn't get a safety, but man, he gets dragged down pretty nasty. 4 plays for 18 yards, where let's bring it up right now. The 4th and 1. Well, let's bring up the whole series, because who caught the ball? Was it White? Was it this Blake that they just signed, Christian Blake?
Blake had like 1 catch, I think. I don't know, man. I need to see more than this. It's tough for me to remember.
I'm trying to recall it too. Let me see if I can find it here. It was, it was called incomplete. I'm sorry. But Master Teague comes in, Ohio State guy. And even I wasn't the biggest Master Teague guy in college. And, Trey Sermon and Travion Henderson now, I like all these other running backs that are in their stables. But Teague looked good. Like, he came out of nowhere. They probably just told him to, I don't know where he's hailing from these days, but whatever, couple-hour car drive up to Latrobe, and he gets a jersey, and boom, he's immediately in there and was looking okay. And he looked the part in this preseason game, even though he got the credit for a block on TV from Pompiani. That wasn't him. It was your guy, Kevin Durant, Mateo Durant. So, but Teague gets 9 yards. It's 2nd and 1, incomplete pass. And then Teague should have had a first down. It's within 2 minutes. They don't do the replay. Tomlin is in the referee's ears. He's clearly over like the 46-yard line, at least over the 45. And they go for it on 4th and 1, and Kenny gets sacked for a loss of 8 by Boye Mafe, 2nd-round pick, who a lot of us liked coming out of college. Thought maybe he could be a fit for the Steelers, perhaps. Maybe the way they got DeMarvin Leal, for example. So that was a little rough, but man, what was with that play call? It's like a bootleg where your options were who? Was it Durant, or I know Hayward was one of them. I think Hayward came out and had already done the 2-point play with Hayward, and Hayward wasn't out there the entire time to this point. So it was almost like they showed their hand, and you knew you're going to have to watch this guy squirt out or somewhere on 4th and 1. Is he going to be blocking versus you've had Jay Sternberger or Kevin Rader out there, which Rader had a drop in that game that didn't help his stock necessarily, depending on how many tight ends they keep. And Sternberger, they're loaded there too, as far as the bottom depth chart guys at tight end, as far as the battle and who they keep.
Yeah, I said this to a guy on Twitter. I wouldn't call Kevin Rader like a loser of the game, but Connor Hayward and Sternberger made more plays than he did. So it's just the way the cards fell for Rader, that, but that's not Rader's game, is making plays vertically or down the field. What I like about Rader, and what the Steelers seem to like about Rader, is his blocking ability.
Special teams,
it's hard to pick that out though on TV,
Yeah, and then special teamer, because if you're on that bottom half of the depth chart at any positions, you've got to play special teams, and that's where Connor's learning. That's where Jalen Warren gets a tackle. Jalen doesn't offer maybe as much as what Benny Snell might have, but guess who stands out in which game? And guys sitting, not too good for a lot of them. And I hope Tyson Alualu will throw him in there too as a veteran. Hopefully he's healthy enough, and hopefully the Steelers don't see him as a liability, because, you know, the word on the street has been, at least in our back rooms, they've only kept 6 defensive linemen and they've got 7 capable. So who's going to be the odd man out? Will it be Montrevious Adams, a guy I liked? Is that a guy they feel can swing back and be on their practice squad, since that's where he was when they picked him up from the Saints? You never know. But the play call just seemed weird, rolling out to the right, and it was like a short,
it's waggle.
Short.
Classic. It's like your first play action pass you learn as a youth football player. You just roll to the right or the left. Got your running back, your tight end, and your receiver coming across the formation with you, and the other receiver just runs a fly to clear out. I think that's what it was.
There was only the short and intermediate option. This was not one that I didn't recognize. Again, I got to rewatch some film. I didn't really recognize if someone was going to go deep on that. And I got to remember the formation too. I'm not sure if there were 2 wide receivers or just one on the field at that time, but and of course I'm criticizing the play, but I didn't think that was the strength. I'm like, it was a long one. Like, I don't know, QB sneak behind that offensive line, the basically third string offensive line, if you want to call it that. Hassenauer was still out there, which really helped in this game.
I kept thinking they were going to QB sneak it, like throughout Kenny's 2 quarters. I kept thinking they were going to do that. Never did. But
let's talk about that though. They were running the ball so well.
Yeah.
And the pass protection wasn't as great as I thought it could have been. So Pat Myers got some work to do, but at least they looked like they were bullies in the run game. And that was very encouraging to see.
From the start of the game, it looked that way. Absolutely.
Yeah. Throughout the course of the game, I mean, it really helped. And once again, I think I showed this shot already, but Kenny to Master Teague. I mean, Kenny's playing with guys he's probably not going to be playing with if he plays in the regular season. So that's what makes this even, it got to remember, it's a little more impressive in that regard too, because in the past, like we said, Dustin Vaughn goes out there and he has like no rhythm, no timing with anybody, because these are guys that haven't been playing together. I mean, Blake he's signed like 3 days ago. I'm not even sure I got his name right. Christian Blake, I think his number was wrong on the roster somewhere too, versus what was on the field once again. Pet peeves of mine and Matt, that's in one of the Steeler groups that we converse about. He keeps track of all the numbers all the time, no matter who it is on the 90-man roster.
Excuse me? Is a challenger entering the ring with the jersey numbers?
Yes, but who? It's like people at home are like, "Who is that?" And then they can't find them on the app, and that frustrates me, because it's like I'm trying to pay attention to what's going on. Okay, so this is where I'm going to surprise you, and then we'll go maybe to a few more individual performances and stuff here. Oh, I don't know. It might be a little bit of a shocker. I hadn't quite decided how to broach this topic just yet, because you know, like, it's not necessarily my love for Mason Rudolph. It's more I end up defending the guy because I'm trying to make things equitable. Like I said, Mitch Trubisky's had 50 starts in the NFL, but there are people who believe Mason had his shot and he's done with only 10 starts, and I don't think that's necessarily fair. George Pickens makes a great catch. Yes, he does. The ball is right there. And it's like one of those things where does Santonio Holmes get the credit or Ben Roethlisberger in the Super Bowl? I mean, it's his feet. I wish there was like a little bit closer of a zoom in on that, because his tippy toes were right there on the money to get that in. So everybody's all smiles at the end of this game, right? And I'm thinking to myself, just what did I just witness here? And there's people who have already written off Mason from the very beginning, but from what I saw from Kenny Pickett, and like I said, this was game versus practice. And I don't necessarily want to take away from Rudolph necessarily either, in case he ends up being a backup. And I wonder, I've been getting wet feet on Mitch Trubisky the whole time. He didn't do anything wrong in this game necessarily. But we're talking about, like, with Boykin, did he necessarily do anything wrong? Did Rader necessarily do anything wrong? Like, he didn't ascend to, I'm taking this position, I'm holding it, and everything like that. If they do give Kenny some second team reps, this is going to turn into that Josh Dobbs situation where he led all those scoring drives and bumps Landry off the roster. It's not going to be Mason he's necessarily bumping, unless they do feel that they're going to move him somewhere. I don't know that they're that comfortable in doing so, unless they're going to do him a solid, do him a favor as an individual, as a player, as, you know, a thank you. Like, they'll do something like that. You know what I mean? It's a weird thank you. Go get a job somewhere else, you know, but that's what it is.
Give you an opportunity elsewhere instead of being QB3.
Instead of you just collecting dust on the end of the bench, right? And they have Trubisky, and I've said Trubisky could be the next Charlie Batch. So if you're following along with where I'm going with this, if you got another game like this, and you could, because it's going to be Jacksonville, who should be a little bit improved, But if Kenny goes out there and does a lot more of these same things, I'm seeing more upside. I'm seeing the floor has risen, okay, to where I'm at with the other guy's floor. And this is kind of like Mac Jones taking the spot from Cam Newton last year. Of course, that was COVID protocols too that got Cam in trouble, and they didn't play, and then Mac seized it. Well, let's just say something happens with Trubisky or Rudolph in one of these two games, and then it's the Kenny show the whole way. Start Kenny week 1. I'm there. I am absolutely there. I'm there. Some people think like I hate Kenny too, and it's like, no, I don't hate Kenny. His photo's right there. Look where I'm pointing. He's been there since he's been drafted. I know. I'm not changing. You talk about people changing minds at the very beginning of this, and it's like, it's not necessarily changing minds. I prefer to not throw a rookie quarterback under duress because I think it's the highest rate of failure among all the positions in the NFL, and it's the most important position. You wanted to see if he was
ready. Yeah. It's always had that. Our conversations have always had that asterisk. If Kenny shows he's ready, then yeah, it only makes sense. That's the whole point in this, and that's why I cooled off with the start Kenny talk when I heard he was struggling in practice, and why I'm back into like, if he can continue to play like this, and like you already alluded to, if one of the other two has some kind of issue where they have some kind of injury, or the Steelers feel that one of the other two is expendable, him starting week 1 is 100% plausible. That is a reality that I can see, especially after the first game. I mean, you don't want to overreact, but it's impossible. It's impossible. Yeah. Like, he did everything you wanted him to do.
You drafted him in the first round. Like, I like to let the guys season, let them marinate, slow cook. I like the slow cooking. I like the pulled pork, okay? It's just the only way to do it, man. You don't throw it in for 2 hours. You can go 8 to 10. And if you got the actual real smoker equipment, I'm talking, I don't have that stuff anymore. Okay, folks, don't roast me. But, you get where I'm at. Let it sit in the oven. Heat up a little bit, simmer there. I think that's where they're at with Trubisky. It's a matter of win now versus win later. And I think any of the quarterbacks, we started off the show saying this, are capable of running the offense because of the way the defense is, sans missing the players and the amount of rushing yards they gave up in this game, which looked kind of ugly. And there are people already on Devin Bush's case where the defensive line, one of these clips I saw, I was like, that's clearly the defensive line. Guys got to guess. Well, where's he filling? Well, I don't know. He's got 3 different gaps he's looking at. But there was one where
they're all getting blown back. Yeah. Did you hear Kyle Brandt this morning on GMFB?
I did not catch it yet.
He did a good job. He's saying pretty much what you're saying is like, listen, like, preseason hype, all that aside, the fact of the matter is, Mitch, because we're just focused on Mitch right now, he looked good, right? But he's not this established all-pro, this guy who should be the cock of the walk here and just have the quarterback one job. He's like, fact of the matter is, Mitch isn't that great. He's like, Mitch is Mitch, is what he said. He's like, if Kenny can show you these flashes and show you that he's ready, then, I mean, it's beautiful irony. And we actually touched on this ourselves. Yeah. Mitch could get Mike Glennon. Remember, because Mitch was brought in as this rookie and Mike Glennon was supposed to start. And then Mitch just looked good enough. If they're just going to let the kid start, and Mike Glennon had to ride the pine. And that could happen here with Trubisky because, like we both said, he's not doing anything wrong, necessarily. But if Kenny looks like he's up to par with Trubisky, if not better at times, then it just makes sense. And it's not that crazy to think. I think he used the example, what if they do start Mitch and they get off to like 0-2, 1-2, 0-3? That is the perfect time to turn to Kenny if he shows any inkling of being ready, if they don't already turn to him by week 1. Again, I just thought it was, he said it so well that I wish I would have paused the TV and written everything down because I'm paraphrasing most of it. But yeah, he did a really good job of explaining with a level tone and a level head, not really saying like, Mitch, Mason, Kenny, none of them looked bad. But if the rookie of the 3 is this ready and good to go, then we've seen it so many times in the NFL when you try to go in with this veteran first and the rookie just looks better. It's different when you have a guy like Brett Favre or Alex Smith who are established playoff-ready quarterbacks, where Mitch's one playoff year, you can say what you want, but that was mainly the rest of the team, as you've said many times, that got them there. Alex Smith and Brett Favre, they're on higher planes than Mitch Trubisky is. So it made more sense to rock with them for the full year, 2 years, or whatever. Mitch isn't on that level, and that's another reason why Kenny could ultimately be seeing the field this year.
Well, why is Mitch here? Why is Mason still here? And it's because what if you don't know, like in March, and you have Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins on the roster? Are you going to battle with these guys? Let's get somebody in free agency, compete with them, perhaps somebody that could even start, whether it's a pinch. We don't know what's going to be available when we're on the clock to draft. And that's the way you got to think. And now you got the guy, and it's like, well, now we got like all of this. And then the guy that like probably was the odd man out this entire time, Mason Rudolph, isn't doing too shabby either and coming along. But it's just, again, first round draft picks, both of them, Trubisky and Pickett. And that's where I was at. I'm like, well, we kind of know who Mitch already is. And Kyle Brandt is awesome. And he's always got a great way of eloquently stating things, sometimes in the heat of the moment. I don't know if he practices in front of a mirror. I don't do that before this, before we go on the red dot here. So, but Mitch is Mitch. And Mitch being Mitch and seeing him in training camp gave me some incredibly wet feet as of late. Whereas Pickett's been showing some stuff here or there, and I'm recognizing, well, he's still playing with some 2s and some 3s or maybe some 4s, and if he doesn't get any time with them and this and that. But this game was like a whole lot of a different beast. And even to the point where I was questioning this, and it was because of my everyone in the Pittsburgh versus Rudolph kind of narrative, right? If the game ended with that sack, that Boye Mafe 8-yard loss, 4th and 1, Todd Haley-esque stupid play call that I didn't like, what would we be talking about right now? Would we be beefing up Kenny Pickett just as much? He wouldn't have gotten that final drive where he hasn't been running 2-minute drills as much in training camp. It's been Mitch and Mason running those 2-minute drills. And he went out there with command and poise and got these guys that touchdown pass to Tyler Vaughns, who we haven't spoken enough of. We haven't gotten we talked about Boykin and them. Vaughns will be a practice squad guy. I have no doubt in my mind. He has shown enough before this even happened. But I wonder.
Great situational awareness by him on that touchdown, honestly, because time out in the pocket, turns infield instead of going out of bounds, and saw Green in front of him. As an awesome play, heads up play. I might be giving him too much credit. Maybe he didn't know we had a timeout, but he said, I'm making a play. I don't care. I'm receiver 7 on this team right now. I'm scoring.
And Kenny he runs the play, and I don't know who's in their headset. And again, you want to see things. And I'm like, would they have done this in a regular season game? Because if this is Chris Boswell instead of Nick Skiba kicking, Tomlin probably just runs Master Teague, or more or less Najee Harris, three times, chews some clock, forces them to use some timeouts, and lets Boz kick the 30-some yard field goal or whatever it was from that distance. So it was exciting to see them go for the jugular there, and that was a lot of plays. It showed me a lot. That opening drive showed me a lot too, but it showed me more of Matt Canada's offense and letting Kenny settle in. At the end, it was like just sling it. And it was like, okay, this is the stuff I wanted to see. And all of this pressure and everybody chanting your name in front of this home crowd, and your first time wearing this number 8 jersey in black and gold, and you're a first round pick, and you've got 2 guys ahead of you on the depth chart, and you're playing with guys that will be Walmart greeters. Maybe not against necessarily all of them, because Boye Mafe is going to get some time. You know what I mean? Somebody like that. So they're playing some of their rookies and getting them seasoned as well. I'm on board. Now let's see what happens on the next one, because I can't do it just off of one game. That's just not fair. So I'm not completely turned around. And I know everybody was going to be like that initially too. They were just going to be like, Pickett, just like how they booed Mason, just like how they were cheering and making the place raucous. So we got a couple other. We got to get through some of these other position battles, because it's been very quarterback centric. We've been dotting some of the I's and lowercase J's with some of this, but Anthony McFarland just earned a roster spot with this game. And I know I'm going back on what I just said on just one game, but he's been around a couple of years. He needed to show me something, and he just showed that he can be the guy that you could give the rock to and lead the charge for the Steelers running game. I was very, very impressed. He led all of the runners on Saturday, 7 carries, 56 yards, and it was an obscene average. It was 8 yards per carry with a 24-yard long.
Simple multiplication table is 8 times 7.
That was great, man. Just absolutely great. Did you see the meme with the final score? 25 plus 32 is 57. Heinz Field lives.
No, I didn't. That's great. That's beautiful. Heinz Field watching down from heaven.
Yeah, the 57 varieties on the ketchup bottle. So Jaylen Warren, 6 for 34, 5.7, 13-yard long. I thought he had a pretty solid game, except for putting the ball on the ground, which of course caught Mike Tomlin. Made it a point to say something in his press conference. I had a feeling he was going to, and to the point where Bob Labriola said if these young men were of the variety that they were going to ask him for advice, which why would they? But they won't, and they probably won't. Don't do that again, or it's going to cost you an NFL career, possibly even practice squad spot, especially with the way that everyone else is playing. Teague got 6 for 31 too, so it can't be remiss about him, but he's further down that line. Has his stock risen a little bit? Perhaps. Benny Snell's got to get out there. I know he does special teams, and that's what keeps him a spot. McFarland does special teams too. You got to see what Warren's going to do or Hayward's going to do, because that's going to be part of the determination. We're going to have 5 players get cut for tomorrow. For Tuesday, I think they dropped to 85 from 90. It'll probably be Skiba and Nizialek, the other punter.
Tyler Snead, maybe.
Well, yeah, Snead didn't get a whole lot of time, and I think one of the safeties, maybe like Donovan Steiner or somebody like that, is probably a low-hanging fruit as well. So it's pretty interesting. Just speaking of that,
Benny Snell picked a bad time to get hurt, man. I know it's beyond his control.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, the specialists, that was their audition and tape. Perhaps if somebody gets injured in another camp or somebody else is sniffing around looking for someone, that's quite the same way that Chris Boswell landed in Pittsburgh many, many years ago. Let's see. Receiving wise, Gunner was the leader, but he's shifty. He gets out there. He had the 1 touchdown. Pickens had 3 for 43. Gunner had 3 for 47. So dog, right? Tyler Vaughn's 2 for 32 in the touchdown.
That little French bulldog in him, huh? Yeah. Gunner, little French bulldog.
Yeah, and Jaylen Warren, as mentioned too, he had the 1 receiving touchdown as well. Connor Hayward targeted 4 times. 2 of those misses were, I believe, with Rudolph. The 1 skimmed off his hands. Oh man, I'm just like, don't get picked. That's all we're ever going to hear about when it comes to Mason. Oh, he threw an interception. It's like the Dante Moncrief thing. It just drives me crazy. Jay Sternberger 2 for 20, Miles Boykin 2 for 17, Cody White 3 for 13, Tyler Snead 2 for 10, Blake Rader and Sims all had a catch apiece. Sims 1 for 2. Sims actually had the 38-yard run that really opened up Kenny's series there. A lot of different motion things that were going on. One thing that was said, I think, by Pursuta, and I'm trying to think Matt Williamson, and maybe even Dale Lawley might have been in on that call too on the post game. And they were saying, oh, great, just watch. Matt Canada saw that work, and now we're going to see even more of it. And it's a scary thought. I'm more of a traditionalist with a lot of my thinking of football. Again, if somebody's just tuning in for the first time, I'm a Jim Tressel, Youngstown State viewer. He went to Ohio State. It was run the ball up the middle, first, second, maybe even third down. That's what it was. So I'm that's too vanilla for me, but you get the point.
Receiver runs work if you sprinkle them in. The issue Canada got into was it seems like this happened around Claypool's rookie year a lot because they had him do it so many times. Whenever you do it every single time you send the receiver in motion, guess what? Yeah, defenses are going to key in on that and pick up that, hey, the guy running across the formation is getting the ball. That was their issue early on with that, is they weren't sprinkling in a changeup enough. They kept just giving it to the receiver. If they can mix in fakes and not always giving it to the guy, it works sometimes. When it doesn't work, it's usually a 5-yard loss, if not more. And I thought that Sims did a good job of running the play to the extent that Canada wanted it ran. But again, you don't want to see it all the time because defenses catch on to it. And really, that's all Sims did besides his return. And those were 2 good plays, but we've seen a lot more than that been done by receivers in the preseason, and they haven't made the team. So not necessarily a poor performance from Sims at all. It was a good game, just not enough to move the needle for me. My needle moved a lot when I saw Anthony McFarland on the field. Pause. He did everything that was asked of him and hoped for and more. And it wasn't just his speed, look how much faster he is. There were, I think, 2 times that there were guys in the backfield or at least close to it, and they were about to wrap McFarland up, and he did a little shake here, shake there, shot through. He looks more comfortable running and more confident running behind blocks instead of just bouncing to the outside and relying on his speed. He looks like a more seasoned runner now, and his average was incredible. He fell forward a lot. Really, really impressed by what McFarland was able to put on tape. And I feel great because I just said last show that personally I was a McFarland guy. And I'm glad he didn't let me down. I tweeted, I feel like a proud dad right now watching my son going off, running through holes. And we didn't get to defense at all yet, but that was where it was hard for me to pick out like key winners of the game was on defense, because a lot of points were scored by Seattle. They had a lot of things go their way, and I was very much, I'll admit, swept up in the offensive playmakers that we had.
Well, we're almost an hour in, and we've barely mentioned defense other than the guys who didn't play.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there really wasn't much to rave about. I mean, Mollett brought the sauce. He brought the energy. I like what I see from Arthur Mollett on the field. He had a couple good plays. Trey Norwood played well for a majority of the game that he was in, which is good for him because we did see Carl Joseph leave the field in an air cast very early, which usually an air cast and being carted off is some kind of break. So that's you feel terrible for Carl Joseph. And fortunately for the Steelers, Trey Norwood picked up where he left off last year and looks like he'll be a good player for us again. And the 7th-round pick, Mark Robinson, who got Kenny the last drive with his sack fumble and then hit the gritty after the sack fumble. That was an awesome sequence.
Yeah, no, that was amazing. And like I said, I think I even tweeted, I'm like, Kenny gets a chance at redemption now after those 2 drives that stalled right before that with ending in sacks, 2 sacks, and then he comes back out and he does what he does. That's impressive stuff, man. And defensively, it's really tough because I know Mark Robinson got the splash play. And the splash play is going to get you attention, but it just reminds me of somebody like Durant Grant, for example. He had a pick in like a first preseason game and then ended up making the team as a 4th-round pick.
Skipper.
And Tuzar, I'm sorry, I was never big on the Tuzar bandwagon. And he's there, he's a veteran, and he's going to help in practice and get some of those guys up to speed. And maybe he's somebody that's valuable in that aspect as a practice squad guy too. But I never really. He has a couple pass rush moves, but Mike Tomlin likes to say junior varsity a lot too this time of the year. And that's where Steve Sims falls into that same category on the offensive side of the ball. He's a veteran guy. That's the reason why he was out there. That's the reason.
If Jaylen Warren fumbles again, I'll tell you, he'll be on JV. And yeah. I like Jaylen Warren. I thought he had a good game outside of the fumble, but Tomlin does not take that lightly, as he shouldn't. I'm glad that it's that important to Tomlin after the struggles we've had here with fumbles of recent memory. My guy Juju, shout out, and Connor. Like, there's been too many fumbles of recent memory in big time moments for the Steelers. And I'm glad that he pointed it out in the press conference because Jaylen Warren, he had a good game, all things considered, but that cannot be taken lightly when you put the ball on the ground. And if he does it again, like Labriola said, I agree with Labriola, fellow Paisan. I think if Warren fumbles again, he'll be in trouble.
Yeah, and it couldn't have been Pete Carroll on the other side. Couldn't have been happy with the way that game ended up. And you know what? I got lost in some of it. There was actually something where I was going to say with Drew Lock, and there was a play where he had a guy downfield, like wide open. I'm not sure who it was. I can't remember specifically the numbers, but it was kind of like the same thing with like Gunner, and he doesn't find him. He checks down to one of his running backs. And I was like, oh man, like if that's any of the 3 guys we're talking about right now, I'm talking about it today. And here it was just that embedded in my brain that I'm kind of watching like the quarterback competition from the other side to see if I could make any parallels or comparisons with what the Steelers and the Seahawks are doing. You know what I mean? So
going to be quarterback experts by the time week 1 rolls around because of how this off season has been.
Going to learn all the nuances of the quarterbacking game. I'm going to know them all.
Follow through, son. Drop your shoulder.
There we go. I gotta show him one more time, Mason. But yeah, I almost feel like, again, people have said, well, why do you take a guy in the 1st round? And I'm like, Mike Tomlin isn't a guy that's on the hot seat that's in danger of losing his job. So if he doesn't have to be out there starting the chosen one week 1, like Justin Fields with Nagy last year. You know what I mean?
That's
You
true.
had to
That's
absolutely do that. I think the 49ers are, even though they've had so many problems with injuries, but I don't think they're shoving Kyle Shanahan out the door right away, unless this thing with Trey Lance blows up and doesn't work in years 1 and 2, and then they're starting to consider, well, maybe we might need a change here. But I think
no, right now Shanahan's like a top 10 coach. He's totally safe.
But Matt Rule, you've got to feel some pressure there to get somebody in there that can run your offense in Carolina. You know what I mean? There's guys that are legitimately on the hot seat.
His clock's ticking, Matt Rule, 100%. His clock is ticking. The sand's falling.
Belichick, he didn't have to start Mac Jones. Stefanski will be interesting to see what happens with that quarterback situation. Zach Taylor, you better hope that Joe Burrow works out. Everybody was talking about Zach Taylor being on the hot seat last year. Lamar Jackson, even with Harbaugh several years ago, and they finally sat Flacco and put Jackson in there. He was on the hot seat too.
So what is this, dude? Are you team start Kenny week 1 or not?
I'm saying that Tomlin doesn't have to. It doesn't have to rush into this. Like the people see this happen with a lot of the other teams around the league. Or you have an injury, for example, Tony Romo. When wasn't he hurt, right? But that's how Dak Prescott gets in there. And by the way, I saw Ben DiNucci play a little bit the other night with that Cowboys game. Yeah. See, that was the great thing about this preseason game. That was good quarterbacking. Like, this would make the XFL or the USFL watchable, and that's what makes it unwatchable in many cases.
I know. I thought about that too. I was like, imagine if this was like a 10-6 game, it would not be near as fun. But yeah, the Steelers and Seahawks gave us a freaking show, and I'm forever grateful for that. I've said it 3 or 4 times since the game concluded. I don't remember being this excited over a preseason game, probably ever. And hey, just to add to your point there, his hair twin, Justin Herbert. The idea wasn't to start Herbert, and then the doctor tried to kill Tyrod Taylor. And then Herbert got to play.
Has there ever been a guy so snake bitten as Tyrod Taylor? Like, everything that happens to that poor guy, he gets like a job here, there, everywhere, gets hurt, gets like whatever that doctor did. He inject him with like ricin or something, like rat poison.
I think it wasn't helium, but it was something like that. That it made air in his body, which is like very dangerous apparently when you like get air inside of your. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but it was a bad situation.
To get Terry on the horn, let's see what Terry could say. But we do need to mention, though, the Steelers' defense just a little bit, maybe sort of kind of, because they did give up a lot.
Yeah, at least Miles Jack was decent. Hey, that new guy had a sack, too. I don't want to forget to say that. I have that written down. The guy we signed from the Jets, Rashed Jr., that was actually an impressive sack on Drew Lock, and that was a crucial sack, too, to help keep the Steelers in it. Again, preseason, but we're talking of the moment here. Help keep the Steelers in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. But Tomlin can't be too happy about Dallas having a 7.3 average on 10 carries, 73 yards. They gave up 159 total here. Travis Homer ends up with 4
the defense.
4 for 41. Yeah, 10.3. It wasn't all that great. And I mean, the quarterbacking on the other side, it was Drew Lock, 11 of 15, 73.3, completed 102 yards. Geno had 101. Lock had the 2 touchdown passes, a 131.1 rating. So the Seahawks fans are going to maybe look at that. But then again, he didn't get bailed out unblocked. So I'll make the same kind of pass on him as I was with Rudolph, with Dan Moore not making that block earlier in the game too, and nearly getting Rudolph killed. So let me see. Trying to think where we go from here, man. It's just I guess we're gonna have to wait.
We touched on everything as far as I know. I mean, you got offense, defense, running backs.
Yeah. I'm trying to just think. You didn't have all the defensive line. Well, I'm thinking, like, where do we go from here in Jacksonville? And I guess we'll talk about that in the next show, too. But do we see more? Do we see Cam Hayward? Do we see some TJ Watt sprinkled in there at Alex Highsmith? Alex Highsmith probably didn't play because he was more, I believe he crawled up with an injury late in the week, too, just like Anthony Miller.
I would like to see at least a couple more defensive starters, if possible, for at least a series or two. You got to get someone out there. Hey, Ogunjobi, is he ready? Tyson, I know Tyson maybe he won't play the whole preseason because of his injury issues, but definitely Ogunjobi, Chris Wormley, Adams if he's gonna feel any better. Cam, TJ, very brief, but I wouldn't mind seeing them either. Definitely Highsmith because he's not in the same category as Watt and Hayward. He's a good player, but definitely want to see Highsmith get some burn. Minka again for maybe a series or two. Edmonds played, didn't he? Did Edmonds play?
Yeah, Edmonds was in there a decent amount, like a quarter or so. Casey was. Yeah, Joseph, like, it sucks for Carl Joseph that he got hurt. It's going to make the decisions for the Steelers a little easier, unfortunately, because of that. The business end of that was they had a ton of safeties, and who are you going to keep? Trey Norwood looked good. Most of the corners looked good. Pierre had good and bad. He had a nice pass break up in the back of the end zone. I think that does cover most of it. But like I was saying, I'd like to see maybe more of the complement just to see what's going on with these inside linebackers. And that includes Robert Spillane, whether or not he's going to see a significant amount of playing time. Buddy Johnson and Mark Robinson. I mean, Robinson had the splash, but it was kind of a rough outing for him, but he's still learning. It's like,
yeah, Buddy Johnson too. Not the best. I wanted to see more Buddy Johnson. That's what I got. And I didn't really love what I was seeing.
Yeah, and that's fair, and also fair to say these guys haven't gotten a whole lot of time. And Robinson one year as a linebacker, but he seemed to have the instincts to be where he needed to be. And there was great points made that when he made that strip sack, he went for the football as opposed to just, hey, I'm going to get a sack. I could just run through this guy. Yeah, Robinson.
Yeah, it was beautiful. He did the tomahawk chop.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
Learning. Is that an influence of Brian Flores? Or having a defensive player of the year, TJ Watt, on your side? I mean, there's a whole lot of things there. You get a rub. Yeah, possibly you. Well, hey, I think just one brief. I don't have do I have the image? I could pull it up. I'm going to do it for you if I could do it. I don't know that I got it.
Is it George Pickens?
No, I was going to pull up the lightning bolt, but I don't have the lightning bolt.
That's okay.
Yeah. Well, we have, we had some news. Denver Broncos signing former Steelers inside linebacker Joe Schobert this morning.
Oh, okay.
To fill in for an injury there as well. So another veteran that comes off of.
I saw we signed James Vaughters, the linebacker formerly of the Bears and Falcons. He's the outside guy.
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about that. I got to wonder if that has a little bit to do with what they were seeing with Contain on the run with some of the guys out there. Tuska, Avery, Delonte Scott saw a whole lot of time as well. So we covered most of the names. Some of the guys we didn't play or unfortunately casualties at the bottom end of this roster that might not be on this roster going forward. And
Connie Johnson just got cut too, former first-round pick from Kentucky. Steelers did have pre-draft interest, but he's been a total bust these first few years, so not sure if they'll want to bring him in or not, but he just got cut today, I saw.
Yeah. There's moves. Moves are being made ahead. Not everyone's going to wait till 4 p.m. Tuesday to make those cuts. So, Zach, hey, thanks for joining me once again, buddy. It's always fun. We've got more football coming up again. Saturday, Steelers on the road, Jacksonville Jaguars. Maybe could be you once again. I don't know. Maybe we'll catch up later in the week. Maybe Brian will come out from, his cave or hole or wherever he's at. Dude's
that's the Antonio Brown dance, dude.
Oh my God. AB, and of course, Pickens does that, and AB, what did he say? He goes, that's all on 14 GP. Or on GP. Yeah.
On GP.
Oh my goodness.
That's great. That's just what we want, baby. Awesome influence.
Man,
I'm not worried about it. It was just a dance.
It's just but it puts AB back in the spotlight. He is such a glory hog on that. Wasn't there somebody I'd say somebody that was around our level or something of podcast notoriety that was inquiring about AB being on their programming, and he's like, I think it was a one-line text response, and then this person's screen captain put it out there. It just said budget with a question mark, and it's just like, geez, oh man, this guy, he's gonna want to charge you like $5 to sign a nice little sheet, a napkin that comes from McDonald's or something like that. You just bump into him.
To sit there and give you one-word answer is probably high as a kite, just showing up to your interview. I mean, anybody who's asking for money to be interviewed, that's a tough scene. It's a tough deal.
Yeah, I get it, and I get some of these guys. They get certain things with certain appearances, and they do things like that, but there's a time and a place where you make money or you're doing something. Like, why even respond? Like, that's the thing. Like, just, you get ignored. Most of it's like 90%, 99% ignored. And if you're in this field, like, I'm used to being ignored, and it doesn't hurt my feelings. I totally get it.
Hey, it's AB. Maybe he thought he was someone else.
Who knows? He was just seen. He was wearing. Wasn't he wearing a Ravens jersey just a few months ago, trying to get Lamar to get him to play in Baltimore? I mean,
I feel like he does that every other month. He puts himself out there for the Ravens or whoever.
Just about anybody. And well, now he's sad that he doesn't get to see himself play in replays. So hopefully he didn't see. Hopefully he didn't see Tyler Snead out there this weekend and thought, oh, hey, is that me? And got confused or something like that. So,
yeah, a few subtle differences.
Wrong 84. Wrong 84. It's Jeremy Tooman or whatever, whoever used to wear it before Brown did. Well,
you nailed it.
Yep. Hey, like I said, not just a hat rack all the time. Not just here for the hold the headphones in place. So next time, I got the pen here, man. I'm trying not to click it. It's a really bad habit. Boss at a previous job of mine used to carry change in his pocket. Like, who carries change? That makes my pants fall down and all kinds of stuff. It's uncomfortable. The dude always had like a roll of miscellaneous. Like, he could go to the laundry mat, as maybe my mom might say, and he had like quarters, nickels, dimes, like everything. And it's just rattle, rattle, rattle. He would stand there like right in front of you and do this, like while you're trying to actually do your job and try and concentrate. And it's like, dude, just like chill on the change, please.
I had teachers that would give out detentions if you sat there and clicked your pens or chewed your gum. Like, it wears on you that bad year after year after year. These people, like, it was in the syllabus. Like, if you click your pen, you will be in the hallway.
That's great. Well, folks, that'll do it for us. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. My name's Joe. His name is Flash or Zach. Zach with no H. There's too many Zachs out there, and I can't keep track. But you're Zach without an H.
Think about putting an H on my name.
Don't do it. Don't do it. And my name's not Joey either. So until next time, we appreciate all of you tuning in, watching, or listening from wherever you're doing so. More to come later this week. We encourage everyone out there, as we do every time we close out the show, to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.